The White House was quiet that morning, but it wasn't calm. On the surface, it looked like just another big moment. But everyone in the room could feel it. Today wasn't going to be normal. There was a tension underneath. They came because they sensed a collision was coming, and deep down, everyone knew this wasn't a friendly exchange. Today, someone was going to push too far, and someone else was ready to push back. The doors opened, and Joe Biden walked in without any rush. No swagger, no performance, no pause for effect. Just steady steps and a neat folder tucked under his arm, tabs visible as he came to work, not to spar. The kind of preparation that doesn't need to be announced. The room shifted instantly as soon as he entered. Donald Trump stood quickly, almost cutting the moment short, and moved around the desk with that familiar grin that looked friendly until you listened to it. "Joe," he said, stretching the name just enough to test it. Biden met him halfway, eyes level, expression calm. "Mr. President," Biden replied, voice even, no edge, no apology. The words were respectful, but the tone said something else entirely. Their handshake lingered longer than it needed to. Trump held on, grip firm, smile fixed, trying to anchor the moment to his terms. "Long time," Trump said, leaning in just enough to invade space. Biden didn't flinch. "It's been a while," he answered, calm as ever, meeting Trump's eyes without blinking. No squeeze back, no pull away. Just steady resistance, the kind that makes the other person let go first without realizing why. Trump finally released his hand and gestured toward the chair across from him with a casual flick, like he was seating a guest on a talk show. "Have a seat," he said, voice light, eyes sharp. Biden nodded once and sat without hesitation, placing the folder on the table like it belonged there. He didn't open it. He didn't rush to fill the air. He didn't crack a joke or offer small talk. He sat back, hands relaxed, posture straight, and waited. Trump watched him for a second, clearly expecting something. He chuckled dryly. "You're quiet today," Trump said, leaning back in his chair. "That's new." Biden looked at him and shrugged slightly. "I'm listening," he said. The line was simple, but it landed hard. Listening meant Trump had to talk first, and Trump hated talking without control. The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. Trump's smile tightened. "You know," he said, tapping the desk once, "people always say these meetings are about cooperation. Funny how that word only comes up when someone wants something." Biden didn't bite. "Or when someone wants an audience," he replied calmly. The staff along the wall froze. That wasn't loud. It wasn't rude, but it was a clean cut. Trump leaned forward, eyes narrowing just a touch. "Careful," he said, half smiling. "You're in my office now." Biden didn't look away. "I know exactly where I am," he said. "That's why I'm here." The words hung there, heavy, daring Trump to push. Trump laughed, but it came out sharp, forced. "All right," he said, spreading his hands. "Let's see how this goes." Biden said nothing. He didn't nod. He didn't argue. He let Trump sit with his own noise, with his own impatience. Trump leaned back like he'd finally found his rhythm, fingers drumming once on the desk before stopping. "So," he said lightly, forcing warmth into his voice, "how's Jill?" He tilted his head, pretending to care. "Family's doing well, I hope. Grandkids keeping you busy?" Biden answered politely, short and clean, the way you answer a question that isn't really a question. Trump nodded, lips curling into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The friendliness lingered a beat too long, like a fake handshake you can't pull away from. Then his tone shifted. "You know," he added casually, eyes narrowing just a touch, "people still ask questions about where you were born." The words were dropped softly, but they landed hard. The room locked up. A pen stopped scratching paper. Someone near the wall adjusted their stance like they suddenly needed balance. Trump watched it happen and leaned into it. "I'm just telling you what people say," he shrugged, palms open, playing innocent. "They come to me all the time. They ask, 'Are we really sure?'" He glanced around the room, smirking, waiting for a nervous laugh or a nod of agreement. "I mean, it's out there. I didn't start it." The silence stared back at him. No one moved. No one helped him carry the lie. Biden didn't rush to answer. He didn't shake his head or roll his eyes. He just looked at Trump, steady and calm, like he was studying something familiar and unimpressive. Then he spoke, quiet enough that everyone had to lean in. "You're still doing that?" Not a question, a diagnosis. The line hung in the air, stripping the moment of drama and leaving it exposed. Trump's grin twitched. He laughed too fast. "Hey, don't get sensitive," he said. "It's not personal. People are curious." Biden's gaze didn't move. "Curiosity ends when facts show up," he replied. "What you're doing is something else." Trump's posture stiffened. "Watch your tone," he snapped, then tried to soften it with a grin. "I'm the president. I hear things. I repeat them." Biden nodded slowly. "That's the problem," he said. "You repeat things even after they're proven false." A murmur rippled through the room, quickly swallowed by silence. Trump leaned forward, eyes sharp now. "So you're calling people liars?" Biden didn't hesitate. "I'm calling the lie tired," he said, "and I'm calling you out for dragging it back into the room." Without another word, Biden reached for his folder. The motion was calm, deliberate, almost boring. He opened it, flipped past charts and notes, and pulled out a single document. No speech, no build-up. He slid it across the desk like it was routine paperwork. "There," he said evenly. "Signed, sealed, verified, again." Trump stared at it, jaw tight. He picked it up, skimmed it too quickly to read, then set it down with a forced chuckle. "Well," he said, voice thin, "I guess that settles it." Biden leaned back slightly. "It settled years ago," he replied. "You're the only one pretending it didn't." Trump's smile cracked, just for a second. He cleared his throat, tapping the desk harder than before. "You always like playing the victim," he muttered. Biden shook his head. "No," he said. "I like ending the nonsense." The silence that followed was heavier than before, and this time it didn't feel neutral. It felt like judgment. Trump looked around the room, searching for backup, for noise, for anything to drown out the moment, but nothing came. Trump broke the silence with a sharp laugh, the kind meant to wipe the slate clean and put him back in charge. He leaned back, spreading his arms like he was addressing a crowd instead of one man. "Let's cut through it," he said. "Some people spent years giving speeches. I get results." He nodded to himself, satisfied. "Big difference. Talking looks nice on TV. Doing things actually matters." The jab was clear. Biden was all words, all ceremony, a relic from a softer era. Trump watched closely, waiting for irritation, for defense, for anything he could grab. Biden didn't give him that. He sat still, eyes steady, letting the line sit long enough to rot on its own. Then he spoke, calm and direct. "Doing things is easy," he said. "Doing the right things is the job." The words weren't dramatic, but they landed heavy like a verdict already decided. A staffer near the wall stopped scribbling notes, pen hovering in midair. Trump's grin stiffened, just a notch, like something had slipped past his guard. Trump leaned forward again, voice tightening. "There you go," he said. "Always the lecture. You were great at that. People loved the speeches, the applause, the poetry." He smirked. "Very classy. But while you were talking, I was fixing messes." He tapped the desk harder now. "I don't need pretty words. I need wins." The shot was cheap but sharp, meant to paint Biden as ornamental, a performer who never got his hands dirty. Biden didn't blink. He didn't rush to list accomplishments or defend a legacy. He just held Trump's gaze. "Wins without standards don't last," he said. "They just make headlines." Trump scoffed. "Spare me," he snapped. "You people love headlines when they're yours." Biden's voice stayed level. "I love results that don't fall apart when the cameras leave." The room tightened. Trump's jaw set, his fingers curling slightly on the edge of the desk. "You always think you're smarter than everyone else," Trump shot back, louder now. "That's why people got sick of it." Biden shook his head once. "No," he replied. "I think people got sick of being sold noise and calling it leadership." The words cut clean, and for a second, Trump looked genuinely irritated. "You're sitting there judging," he snapped, "like you didn't make mistakes." Biden nodded. "I made plenty," he said. "I owned them. That's the difference." Trump laughed again, but this time it sounded thin. Listen to this, he said, glancing toward the staff, like he wanted an audience. He's turning this into a sermon. No one laughed, no one nodded. Biden leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, just deliberate. This isn't a sermon, he said. It's a reminder. Trump narrowed his eyes. Of what? Biden didn't raise his voice. That leadership isn't branding, he said. It's responsibility. The room went quiet again, heavier than before. Trump opened his mouth, then closed it, searching for another angle. Biden didn't press. He simply finished the turn. So, he said, folding his hands, are we ready to talk about the country? The question hung there, plain and unavoidable. It forced a choice Trump didn't want to make: keep posturing or step into the work. Staff along the wall felt the shift immediately. This wasn't a brawl anymore. The silence crept back in, slow and suffocating. Trump picked up a pen and tapped it once, then again, then stopped when the sound felt too obvious. A short laugh slipped out of him, forced and hollow, like he was testing whether noise alone could break the moment. Biden didn't move. He didn't look down, didn't look away, didn't rush to save Trump from his own quiet. He just sat there, calm enough to make the silence feel intentional. Trump shifted in his chair, irritation starting to show. You know, he said, trying a new angle, some people really think they're above it all. He tilted his head, eyes narrowing, like they're smarter, better, like the rules don't apply to them. He paused, waiting for Biden to bite, to defend himself, to puff up. You ever think that's how you come off? The jab was clumsy but sharp, aimed straight at ego. Biden looked at him for a moment, then answered without heat. When you've seen power up close, he said, you stop mistaking it for volume. That answer didn't give Trump anything to swing at. He scoffed and waved a hand. There you go again, he said, always above the mess, always judging. Biden shook his head slowly. No, he replied, I've been in the mess. I just learned it doesn't need more shouting. The contrast was starting to show. Trump leaned forward, then back, then forward again, like he couldn't find the right posture to win. Biden stayed exactly where he was, steady, measured, almost boring in the best way. Trump kept talking, kept circling, trying jokes that didn't land and comments that went nowhere. Biden didn't interrupt. He didn't escalate. Biden finally leaned forward. Not aggressive, not loud, just enough to change the angle of the room. Let's be clear, he said, voice steady. You didn't ask questions. You built a stage on doubt. He held Trump's gaze, unblinking. You float a rumor, you repeat it, then you wait for the noise to do the work for you. The words weren't sharp, but they were precise, like a surgeon naming the problem before the cut. That's not leadership, Biden continued. That's manipulation. The room tightened because everyone recognized the pattern the moment he said it. Trump bristled. He straightened in his chair and raised his voice just enough to reclaim space. Don't lecture me, he snapped. I know how this works. He laughed, quick and defensive. You come in here acting like a professor, telling me how politics is supposed to be done. Biden didn't flinch. He didn't speed up or slow down. I'm not lecturing, he replied calmly. I'm describing what you just did. That contrast made Trump's irritation louder than his words. Trump tried to cut him off, waving a hand. Enough, he said. We're not here for philosophy. His voice carried a bite now, impatience bleeding through. Biden nodded once, almost agreeing. Good, he said. Then let's talk about real business. He paused just long enough for the line to land. Real business helps the country, not the ego. The sentence didn't accuse, it cornered. It forced the room back onto the one thing Trump hadn't planned for. Trump hesitated. He glanced at the desk, then at the folder in front of Biden, then back up again. Fine, he said finally, tone forced into something official. Policy, that's what you want. The staff along the wall felt the shift immediately. Biden didn't raise his voice when he turned the blade. He didn't need to. Before you question my legitimacy, he said evenly, you might want to look at the standard you set. He let the words settle, then continued, calm and precise. Leadership isn't just speeches and slogans. It's what you normalize. It's what you excuse. It's what you turn into background noise. Trump scoffed under his breath, but Biden didn't stop. When a president treats rumor like a tool, Biden added, the country learns that facts are optional. The room felt smaller, tighter, like the walls had moved in a notch. Trump tried to laugh it off. "Here we go," he said sharply. "Another lecture." His voice rose just enough to reclaim space. "You people love to act like you're the moral police." Biden didn't flinch. "I'm not policing," he replied. "I'm measuring." He paused, then shifted the weight forward. "You brought family into power," he said. "You gave her a desk. You put her in meetings. You let her influence policy." His eyes stayed locked on Trump. That stops being private the second it touches public decisions. The line didn't accuse, it cornered. "Leave her out of this," Trump snapped, louder now, chair scraping as he leaned forward. "That's my daughter." The temperature in the room spiked. Staff along the wall looked down, suddenly fascinated by the floor, by their notes, by anything that wasn't the table. Biden didn't move an inch. "You brought her in," he said quietly. "You made her part of the administration. That makes her part of the responsibility." Trump's jaw tightened, his hands clenching. The anger was no longer hidden, and the room could feel it pressing outward. "This is out of line," Trump shot back. "You don't get to drag my family into your little speeches." Biden met his glare without blinking. "I'm not dragging anyone," he replied. "I'm following the trail you laid down." He leaned back slightly, voice still level. "You can't demand privacy while cashing authority." Trump opened his mouth to fire back, then stopped, realizing too late how defensive he sounded. The silence that followed didn't soften him. It exposed him. Biden finished the turn without theatrics. "Words don't disappear," he said. "When you say them on camera, when you repeat them, they become part of the record." He didn't list quotes. He didn't need to. "If you weaponize rumors," he added, "you invite receipts." Trump stared at the desk, then up again, searching for an angle that didn't look like retreat. There wasn't one. Trump felt the room slipping away and lunged for control. He straightened his jacket, forced a smile that came a second too late, and clapped his hands once, like a host ending a segment. All right," he said brightly, voice pitched for optics. "Let's move on. We've said enough." He stepped around the desk and thrust out his hand, palm open, frozen midair like a camera cue. "No hard feelings," he added. "This doesn't need to get messy." It was a reset button disguised as courtesy, a handshake meant to erase the last 20 minutes and replace them with a picture. Biden didn't take the hand. He didn't even step closer. He looked at it the way you look at a prop that doesn't belong in the scene. The silence stretched, awkward, and heavy. "Moving on doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen," Biden said calmly. "That's not leadership. That's avoidance." Trump's smile twitched. "You're dragging this out," he snapped, dropping the charm. "People are tired of drama." Biden met his eyes. "People are tired of being lied to," he replied. "You call it drama when the truth shows up." Trump pulled his hand back halfway, then shoved it forward again, irritated. "You always do this," he said, voice sharp. "Moral high ground, lectures, acting like you're better than everyone else." Biden shook his head once. "No," he said. "I'm acting like someone who won't clean up your mess with a photo op." Trump scoffed. "This is politics," he muttered. "You smile, you shake, you move on." Biden's answer was short and final. "That's how you move on, not me." Biden turned toward the door without another word. Trump tried once more, desperation bleeding through the bluster. "You walk out like this and you think you win?" he said. Biden stopped, didn't turn around. "Winning isn't the point," he said evenly. "Truth doesn't need an exit strategy." Then he left. The door closed behind him with a dull click that cut through the room louder than any insult. Trump stood there, hand half raised, fingers curling back into a fist, as the aides along the wall looked anywhere but at him. Inside the Oval Office, the energy collapsed in on itself. Trump stood there for a moment longer than necessary, then turned back toward the desk, like a man returning to a job he no longer controlled. He shuffled the papers in front of him without really reading them, straightening stacks that didn't need to be straightened. "Get me my schedule," he muttered to an aide, voice low, clipped, missing its usual edge. The room felt smaller now, tighter, like the walls had moved in after Biden left. The dominance he'd tried to project earlier didn't linger. It curdled into something closer to insecurity. No one rushed to speak. No one filled the silence for him. Aides avoided eye contact, suddenly busy with nothing. One of them nodded and stepped away too quickly, relieved to have an excuse to leave the room. Trump sat down hard, stared at the desk, then glanced toward the door Biden had walked through. For a brief second, his reflection stared back at him in the polished surface. Jaw tight, eyes unsettled. He cleared his throat, tapped a pen once, then stopped. The performance was over, and without an audience, there was nothing left to sell. Down the hall, Biden walked at the same steady pace he'd kept all meeting. No hurry, no victory lap. The noise of the Oval faded behind him, replaced by the muted rhythm of footsteps on marble. A staffer caught up carefully, hesitant, like they weren't sure whether to interrupt. "Sir," the staffer asked quietly, "are you okay?" Biden paused, then smiled faintly, not for the cameras, not for effect. "I'm fine," he said. After a beat, he added, "I hope the country will be too." Outside, the White House went on with its day. Phones rang, doors opened and closed. Meetings continued. But for the people who had been in that room, the question wasn't what was said. It was who held the silence when it mattered. In the end, there were no speeches, no headlines inside those walls, just a simple truth hanging in the air. Noise needs an audience. Truth doesn't. If you felt the shift in that room, stay with this story. Because moments like this don't end when the door closes. They echo in how power is used, how truth is handled, and who actually controls the narrative when the noise dies down. If you want more stories where silence speaks louder than shouting, where composure beats intimidation, and where the room tells you everything before anyone does, make sure you follow, subscribe, and keep watching. These aren't just clashes. They're lessons in who really owns the room when it matters most.